Casey.
And I'm Sam.
Welcome to Monster Soup and Creature Brews, the podcast where we talk about all things monster movies, big, small, creepy, or downright ridiculous.
From movie monsters to cryptids lurking in the shadows of folklore, we're here to explore them all. So kick back, grab a snack,
Or a drink.
and let's dive into some monster-filled mayhem.
Just a heads up, this is a kids edition of the Monster Soup and Creature Brews podcast, which means that it will not include a Monsterverse moment, nor a Chat GPT explains it badly, and it will be kid friendly. Our daughter, PJ, really wants to participate and be included in the podcast. After some thought and discussion, Sam and I have decided that every so often we'll watch a family-friendly movie all together and then allow her to participate in the recap with us. We'd love to have you stick around, but if kids' movies aren't your thing, we'll see you next week for our regular adults-only episode. On this week's episode, we are going to be recapping Scooby-Doo, the 2002 live-action version. And we have our special guest star, PJ, here to help us do commentary and recap that movie.
Hi.
Alright, and as always, Samuel is going to kick off that recap.
So the movie opens in a toy factory. Wow, oh, toy factory. The case of the Luna Ghost. A ghost burst through a window on the top floor of the factory, carrying Daphne through the air.
Damsel in distress, always getting captured. Velma says repeatedly throughout this movie.
As Daphne screams for help, we see Velma calling for Fred to alert him that Daphne, to no one's surprise, is captured again. Fred, who's checking himself out in the mirror, says it's fine and to continue with the plan. As they discuss the plan, Scooby and Shaggy get discovered by the ghost, who breathes fire at them, and then they run away.
And then they go on a skateboard and almost get crushed while
Yep.
Scooby's running on legs.
And they bump into Fred, who falls and misses the ghost with the water hose that he's supposed to hit him with. And Velma falls from the gangway and honestly should probably have broken her leg because the chain wraps around it and she falls for like 20 feet.
It looks like a bad fall, actually.
Yeah. Her leg would either have ripped out of the socket or just be destroyed.
Movie magic. She's fine.
She gets wrapped around a chain, which saves her from landing on her face, and the net that was supposed to capture the ghost lands on Fred. And then after a crazy skateboarding sequence with Shaggy and Scooby, they bump into the ghost and knock it into a pile of toys. The mystery machine bursts through the giant doors leading to the toy factory, and out walks Pamela Anderson.
A little fancy girl, I think, admires Fred.
Yes, she gives Fred a hug, and she's followed by a bunch of police cars and a news van, and fans of Mystery Inc. just flood into this toy factory.
I think they're a very popular detective industry. I didn't watch much Scooby-Doo.
Agency, yes. Scooby-Doo is a really popular cartoon from I think their first cartoons were in the 80s.
I don't know. I watched it as a kid.
Yeah, well, we watched reruns that were already out, and then they came out every couple of years. They came out with new seasons of Scooby-Doo.
Where are you?
We have some work to do now.
Yeah. You know what's also interesting, because I've watched quite a few of the Scooby-Doo movies, is that the TV show, they're always just a man in a mask, but all of the movies are actual monsters. Like, there's one movie where they go to, Louisiana,
Yeah, I remember
a plantation,
that
and they're all werewolves. And it's like, how is it? It's like they keep the movies and the TV show continuity separate. Because in the movies, they, movie after movie after movie, discover actual monsters, ghosts, all kinds of crazy stuff. But in the TV shows, it's literally just a man in a mask every time.
I don't know. What, just a man, or is it like a woman sometimes? Or is it always a man?
Sometimes it's girls.
99% of the time, it's a man.
Is Shaggy-Doo included in the series too?
Scrappy-Doo?
Scrappy-Doo?
Yes,
Sorry.
and he's not a villain. He's actually Scooby's nephew.
Makes sense. They're literally
so
the same.
I looked this up because I was also curious why. I mean, we're jumping ahead, but I was also curious why they made Scrappy-Doo a villain.
This movie came out in 2002. I think it's okay. I don't think we're spoiling anything.
Yeah, fair. Apparently, they wrote Scrappy like that because at the time, which I don't understand because I always thought Scrappy-Doo was cool as a kid, but maybe maybe I was a part of the problem. There was a lot of people who hated Scrappy-Doo because he kind of took over the series, and a lot of people found him annoying, and I'm assuming a lot of adults found him annoying, and they didn't like Scrappy-Doo. They would have been the ones who would have been writing this movie. And eventually, the spin-off series of the Scooby-Doo series Scrappy pretty much replaced Fred, Velma, and Daphne. And it's like Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy going on misfit adventures. That's part of the reason why they wrote him as a villain, as an ode to like how annoying he was pre-2002.
How much everybody just hated him.
Yeah. So Fred gets interviewed and he claims their success is due to teamwork and he's always got a plan. He unmasked the Luna Ghost, who is none other than Old Man Smithers. This is a running gag because that's like, it's always like Old Man something in all the old TV shows.
Old Man Jenkins.
Yeah, Jenkins is probably the most common one. I feel like they used to reuse the same name between like 3 or 4 names. And Old Man Smithers is the creepy janitor of the factory who was turned down by Pamela Anderson when he asked her out on a date. He claims he's a lover boy of George Clooney proportions.
Who's George Clooney?
He's an actor, honey.
He was a really, quote-unquote, handsome actor from the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, he did stuff later after that, but I think he's well known for his, like, 2000 to 2010 roles.
Yeah.
In particular in, like, Ocean's 11, and I know he was Batman, and I think Batman Returns, or Batman and Robin. And we get the line, I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your dumb dog.
Are they actually kids?
No, they're
not
all
in this movie.
They're all adults in this, but in the TV series, they're supposed to be teenagers. Yeah, and that line gets thrown out every episode whenever they capture whoever the villain is.
It's iconic.
Yes.
Is it like usually like an old man and they're always angry because kids?
Well, they would. Well, most of these people would have gotten away with it if these random teenagers hadn't just wandered upon this tiny town or whatever.
And does Daphne get captured a lot in the series?
She doesn't necessarily get captured, but she does tend to fall through trap doors often, get chased by the monster. That's something they didn't do, which I was surprised. So another running gag in old Scooby-Doo shows is them running into a hallway, running through one door, appearing out of another door, and then just keep rouletting through the doors until they run into the monster, and then they run away again. They kind of did it a little bit.
They did the chase scene, but they didn't do the stereotypical one in, like, the hallway.
Yeah, which is what I would have loved. While the mystery was solved, several disagreements between the group made Fred, Daphne, and Velma go their own ways. Velma because Fred is always taking credit for her plans. Daphne because everyone thinks she's only good for being captured. Velma even calls her out saying she comes with her own ransom note.
It was a funny joke, though.
No, Velma has some zingers in this. And despite Shaggy's attempt to keep everyone together, everyone splits up. And then we get 2 years later, we meet it back up with Shaggy and Scooby on the beach doing what they do best.
Eating disgusting food.
Yeah, cooking and eating food. It was like an eggplant burger with chocolate sauce.
And spicy stuff.
Yeah. Right before they were about to dig into their freshly cooked food, they hear a banging on the van door, and they immediately assume it's someone trying to get them to solve a mystery. And they're not technically wrong. So first they try to pretend like they're not there, and then they try to make a run for it.
With tons of food.
Yep. And they bump into the guy that's trying to find them, and it turns out he's just trying to invite them to a place called Spooky Island. And they immediately inform him they don't go to any place with Spooky in the name. At first they're like, nah, we ain't going. But as soon as he mentions that it's all you can eat, they're in.
Because they're like the eaters of the group.
Yes, they're notorious for always munching on food and eating, in particular Scooby snacks.
I think those are like a dog treat in the movie.
And the TV show. Well, in the movie they said it's a vegetarian thing, which I don't know if that tracks.
I always just understood that they were just dog biscuits, and Shaggy has low standards.
Yes, because so Scooby snacks have gone through different iterations. In the older series, they're literally shaped like bones. Uh-huh. But in like a pup named Scooby-Doo, they turn into like actual nuggets, and then from there on, they're always like just a box of nuggets.
I just remember as a kid being grossed out because I was thinking of
them as... Is this a human
like,
eating dog food? Yeah.
But like I'm thinking of the like little dog bone treats that I won't name or call out specifically that you buy for like cheap at Walmart, and I just always assumed he was just eating dog cookies.
Yeah.
But I think they use it like as an actual human food. I don't think people would be that crazy to eat dog food.
I would hope not.
Well, it was a cartoon. So
but in the
they can do whatever
action,
they can do whatever they want in the cartoon. Well, in the live action, they make it sound like they're actually like vegetarian dog food. Which
doesn't
what
better.
What dogs are eating that anyways?
Most dogs seem like meat.
We cut to the airport where we see all of the gang heading in the same direction. Velma has been working with NASA, Fred became an author, and Daphne is now a black belt. Velma quickly deduces that they were all invited to solve a mystery. Daphne, for some reason, is trying to carry on 7 bags. If you're that bougie, why didn't you just check them? Or not check them, sorry. What's it called when you...
No, that's what it's called.
Oh,
It's called
yeah.
checking your bag.
Yeah. She's trying to carry on 7 instead of just checking them. Like, it's 2002. Things haven't changed that much. You still have to check your bags and then you have 1 carry-on.
The book Fred made seems kind of dumb.
Well, it's trying to show that he's egotistical and that he's self-absorbed. Because his book is like...
Fred on Fred.
Yeah.
Faces on me.
Yeah, he's like the mini faces of Fred or something. I don't know.
It has Fred face, like
Yeah.
2 Fred faces.
It's literally just him
on the
talking
book.
about himself. And so the older cartoons, Fred isn't this self-absorbed. But in later iterations of Scooby-Doo, they've kind of made him kind of a joke character. Where he's just your stereotypical jock. He's like, I can live 220. Like, that's his like new running gag. And it's always him looking at himself in the mirror. And I feel like they got this newer Fred stereotype from the live action series. After seeing Scooby in drag, so he can sit on the plane because he's a dog.
He's a grandma.
Yeah, he's a grandma. In the front row of the plane, as it's panning over the passengers, in the front row...
Is a lady with a cat.
No, it's all the band members of Simple Plan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and their song is actually playing in this scene. I don't want to be told to grow up.
Nice.
And it's not gonna... Yeah, they actually... There's a few bands in this that where their songs are playing, and they're actually in the movie.
Honestly, the most unrealistic thing about this airplane isn't Simple Plan or the cat or the dog
It's
dressed
that
as
there's
a grandma.
no assigned seats.
Nope, it's that everybody has like ample leg room and is up and moving about, and there's also a tiki bar.
Oh, yeah, in the plane.
I've never been on a plane where I wasn't packed in like a sardine.
Yep.
Or it's a very fancy plane because it's going to an amusement park.
Apparently.
Yeah,
They all
it
have
is kind of like an amusement park.
spacious legroom, which, once again, no one blinks that grandma's coming to spring break.
Right? There's a couple old people on this. Or not young college kids. Because, the lady that's holding the cat looks like a, middle-aged woman. She doesn't look like everyone else who's there to party.
I think the lady that's holding the cat is in the movie, one on a suit. I don't remember the boy's name. He has, spiky hair. And I think he's going to talk to the woman in line at Spooky Island.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. We'll get there. We cut to Shaggy and Scooby, and just as Shaggy's about to eat a foot-long sub, he catches sight of a girl heading to their seats. Her name is Mary Jane. What a name. She asks can she sit down next to them, and she complains about having allergies, and normally it's only dogs that can make it happen. And she starts sneezing. And Shaggy convinces Scooby to go sit with Velma and Fred. Mary Jane pulls out Scooby snacks, and Shaggy clocks them immediately, and they bond over how they've never met anyone else who are into them. I'm like, of course you didn't. It's dog food.
I don't know.
No one's just out there eating dog food.
Hey, dog cookies, Samuel.
Okay, dog cookies.
It's just hey, imagine if Walmart probably would never make this ad. They are advertising their special food that is made off of Scooby snacks.
Actually, Walmart does sell Scooby snacks. They are dog-shaped graham crackers. I buy them sometimes for you and your brother. They're like little bone shaped.
Yeah, I was about to say we've definitely we haven't in a while,
and
but we used to all the time.
They come with Scooby on the package, and they're actually really good. But they're graham crackers.
For the live
they're not actual
movie,
dog
they
food.
have the scene where they are sharing the love about Scooby snacks, and then the actual brand of food comes up and advertises how good they are. Imagine if they make an ad about that and come to a Scooby festival where you get free Scooby snacks.
Scoob gets back with Fred and Velma and loses it because someone has a cat on board. Who just has a cat on a plane? Free. No cage, no collar, no nothing. It's just a cat sitting on someone's lap.
The same reason nobody noticed they dressed a Great Dane up as Grandma.
Listen,
yeah, and then
that is a grade A costume. Of course no one noticed.
Then Scooby just flipped out because dogs are meant to chase cats.
In movies, yes.
They show the gang getting off a ferry, and they meet Mr. Bean, or in this movie, Emil Mondavarius, the owner
No
of
one
the
can pronounce his name right.
except for Velma, the owner of the Spooky Island theme park. He explains to the gang that he thinks someone is casting a spell on the college kids because when they arrive, they are regular party kids, and when they leave, they're well-behaved and orderly. When one of the arriving guests notices someone, this is the guy you're talking about with the spiky hair, he notices someone he knows getting off the island as he's getting on the island, and she doesn't seem to recognize him. And after exchanging a few words, she proceeds to lift him up and chucks him about 30 feet.
She must be a strong girl.
Yeah, right?
Or, a monster.
Yeah.
There's a very disturbing scene about that with all the monsters, but I'm not going to spoil it.
Good.
Everyone in the gang claims they will solve the mystery first and splits up. Velma starts questioning people if they have seen anything or anyone acting strange. After they shake their head no, two men walk out on the stage that's close by. Nogo, Tawana, and Zarkos. Nogo has tribal markings all over his head and a tattoo of a flaming heart on his chest being clutched by a hand. While Zarko is wearing a luchador getup.
Isn't that big muscle man?
Yes, the one with wearing the mask. And he actually gets introduced by Nango as you might have seen him from Telemundo, which brings back childhood memories because it was one of the few channels I had as a kid, was the Spanish channel.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to love watching telenovelas and not understanding anything that was going on. He starts giving a speech about how this place used to belong to a group of creatures who were content until someone built a theme park on their land.
Dun, dun, dun.
And while they are partying, they are plotting. Mary Jane, Shaggy, and Scooby are walking around the bar area when Scoob gets a call from the bar. They tell him they have hamburgers in the woods in a dark and scary place.
Where no one could see you, so no one could see Scooby and save him.
They tell him they have hamburgers in the woods in a dark and scary place, and he's like, okay, and walks off on his own. Shaggy takes Mary Jane over to a crate machine and wins her
a creepy disabled doll head.
Yeah, it's a shrunken head. On the beach with Daphne, she was walking up to a man speaking an unknown language while he seasons a strung-up raw chicken. Turns out it was a voodoo ritual, and Daphne interrupted. He asks her what she's doing, and she says she's looking for clues, and he gives her some fashion advice that purple is a fall color, and it's May.
After the voodoo man says not to go up to the spooky funhouse, then she just does a very weird, confusing about what she should or should not.
Yeah, the voodoo maestro is out here roasting people, not chickens. He warns her to get off the island and tells her not to go into that spooky castle up on the hill. She gets it in her head that this is some kind of reverse psychology to get her to go to the castle by telling her not to go to the castle. And he's completely lost as she storms off heading to the castle.
And she does a really long part where she's explaining, you telling me not to go, so I should go, but you telling me not to go, you're laying a trap for me to stay there, and all that stuff.
Back in the forest, where Scooby finds the bag that should have the hamburgers in it. As soon as he sticks his head in it, he gets attacked by a bipedal dog monster. And after a series of wacky events, he gets away and runs into Shaggy and Mary Jane. He tells Shaggy he's being chased by a monster, and a random dude in a costume walks out. So Shaggy doesn't believe him.
Bunny Man just ruined it.
Yeah, the guy's wearing a bunny head and is just dancing. So Shaggy assumes that that's the monster Scooby was talking about. Daphne walks over and tries to convince Shaggy and Scooby to join her into looking into the creepy castle. Daphne baits them by offering Scooby snacks.
And Scooby pretends his paw's broken.
Yes, to get more Scooby snacks. And then they make a reference to one of my favorite cartoons growing up was Hung Kung Phooey. I'm not sure if it had a lot of episodes, but I used to watch it early in the morning on Cartoon Network. Oh yeah, you didn't have Cartoon Network, never mind.
I didn't really have TV like that.
Yeah, I didn't for years either, but once I did, you best believe I watched it. It was on 24/7.
I don't think I got real TV until high school.
I think I was in middle school when they had some type of they expanded what the free channels were in Sarasota. So you could get more on just regular cable. Yeah. So Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, WB, all of those TV shows were all available then.
What is the show you're talking about?
It's about Hung Kung Phooey. It's about a dog that could do kung fu poorly. So it was one of those
Still impressive that he could do it.
Well, he would accidentally save people, not intentional. So he would be imagine Napoleon Dynamite. They had the kung fu guy who was teaching people martial arts. Oh. But it was
a dog.
Not real martial arts. Hung Kung Fu was kind of like that, where he would incidentally use his kung fu, and he would think he was fighting the bad guy, but it would secretly be the good guy, and then that would inadvertently stop the bad guy, kind of stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Wow. The dog must be smart and dumb at the same time.
Yeah, there were a lot of cartoons like that back in the day. They walk into the castle that looks like some kind of fun ride that's shut down. As soon as they walk into the castle, they run into Fred, who's been looking for clues. And just as Daphne is telling Fred that she claims any clues that they find here, a giant statue reaches its arm over to touch her.
And is Velma trying to scare her?
Yep, it's Velma who wanted to scare Daphne. They do the usual split up gang, and everyone wanders around looking for clues. A little person who has been spying on the gang through, and Shaggy called this out, a picture frame with eye holes.
Hold on. Before they enter and Daphne's telling them to go in, Shaggy's like, this happened 12 times. Where there's creepy little people watching you every move. Nights, do you think pretending to swing our axes are going to swing at us once we enter that room? And a whole bunch of common haunted house stuff.
Yes, the common, and this is a running gag in Scooby-Doo TV show, is there's always eyes in the knight's armor or a picture frame with cutout eye holes so people can look and see what's going on. And lo and behold, this actually happens. This little person who's watching the gang through the picture holes,
he's dressed up like a genie.
Yeah, it's probably a costume for the island because a lot of them are in little like tribal outfits. He notices the gang splitting up and he starts all of the equipment in the funhouse. Everyone kind of gets trapped in a different way, shape, or form. Velma and Fred get stuck between moving guillotines,
which they have a time to escape or shut them down.
Yep. Scooby and Shaggy get trapped by a bunch of fake food and get it like strung up on a wall. Daphne gets stuck on the front of a coaster ride, and just when Fred is about to get hit by a guillotine, Velma throws him a book that he uses to block the guillotine. And this part's so comical. He like launches through a window, lands on the switch that started the ride, and he ends up stopping the ride. And Daphne, who's about to get impaled by a bunch of swords sticking out of the wall, stops just short. And since Fred landed on the lever, it stopped the ride. Scooby eats the plastic food to free him and Shaggy from the wall.
And they find this random room I don't know what's used for. And they start a gas off.
Yep. So when the guillotines were swinging, Fred and Velma were pulling all the books off the wall. They tried to find a way to find a secret passage to stop the ride. But they ended up not having to do that because Fred ended up getting blasted through the window to stop the ride. But there's one book left on the shelf, and Velma pulls it off the shelf and opens a secret passage. This passage leads to the ride controls that Fred was just in. And as soon as they walk into the room, it starts some kind of training video. And this video shows...
It's so weird.
Yeah, it shows like a weird scenario where there's a bunch of kids at a party and two people bump into each other.
And one goes like, "I'll crush your bones to dust." And the lady explaining it said, "That's what you should not to do." And
I'm surprised you remember that because the exact words are, they bump into each other and he's like, "I will crush your bones into dust."
I've seen the movie multiple times. The second one I've seen not as much. That we're gonna report on sometime soon.
Yep. And after that lady says that this isn't the way to do it, this is the proper way to do it, they show the same scenario again, except this time...
The boy that says, "I'll crush your bones to dust," say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then moves on.
Yeah.
But he does it in the worst, most cliche slang you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, he's like, "Well, shizzle my nizzle, friend. We're good."
Yo, dog, it's no big thing.
Yeah.
It's slang to the point of cringe.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Again, very of the era, because we were just making up words back then.
I'm just here for all the frosted tips that are in this movie. Shout out to my cousin Heath and his frosted tips.
Yeah, I get back to this, but yeah, I point this out later. Velma theorizes that this is some kind of either behavioral training or brainwashing facility. Meanwhile, Daphne discovers some type of weird chamber with an ancient relic in the center.
I think it's called the Rootless Temple. It's mentioned way later in the movie.
She takes the relic and triggers some kind of trap and barely escapes getting caught in it. Shaggy and Scooby start burping and farting for 5 minutes until Daphne shows up with the relic.
And she was like, "Please, guys, do you have to do this?"
Yep. Alarms start going off and all the evil goons start pouring in. And the gang all meet back up, and just when they were about to get cornered, disguise themselves as part of the ride.
Like a medieval set. Like Daphne's a princess, and Shaggy, once they're leaving, just farts in the student honor. They have fake fire, and the fire just goes up.
Yep. Our luchador, who's leading the bad guys, confronts the guy in charge of the facility, the little guy who started the ride, and he tells Zarko that they found the Daemon Ritus, aka the relic. Once the bad guys are gone, they escape and head back to the party area. They soon run into Mondavarius, and a running gag of this movie is Fred just butchering his name.
Like,
He calls him like mononucleosis.
it's so funny, but like Fred, every time he bumps into it, it's like just a random thing that starts with V or U.
Yeah, he just picks a new name every time. They explain that they found a clue and they have suspects in mind. Ingo, the voodoo man, and Mondavarius himself.
And he was so surprised that he just straight on leave.
Yep. After they split up to do more research, Velma goes to the bar to inspect the Daemon Ritus, which is probably not the best place to look into the ancient relic that they just stole in front of everyone.
They should have done it in the room or something.
There's got to be a more private area to do that.
No, publicly, in the bar, in front of everybody.
Yep.
Best place.
That guy with the tattoo is
Ingo.
watching him.
Yeah, Ingo immediately spots her with it, but instead of confronting her, he walks over to the piano and just starts playing. And while she's looking at the symbols on the Daemon Ritus, some guy walks up and just chats her up.
And this is the part where Scrappy-Doo's mentioned.
Yes, she gets some random drink, quote unquote, on the house. Instead of being a little suspicious about getting an open drink that you didn't watch them pour, she just immediately starts drinking it. And while she's drinking it, she's talking to this guy. She's reminiscing on what the gang used to be like before they split up. And we get introduced to Scrappy-Doo, who's just kind of jumping around and just being a menace. And then he pees on Daphne.
Saying, puppy power!
And Fred yells at him because this isn't the first time he's done this, and accuses him of marking his territory. And Scrappy says, you know what? It's time that you appointed me as the new leader, or I'm getting out of here.
And they just drop him on the side of the van.
Yeah, they dump him out of the van and leave.
Which, you should never issue a threat that you're not prepared to have be carried out.
Facts. Like,
Because if you're not really prepared to leave, don't say
people
that you
will
will.
call your bluff.
And the Mystery Inc. definitely does that.
Yep.
In this movie, I should say.
Velma is swaying back and forth. Ingo finishes playing the piano and everyone claps. Scooby, who's clapping and whistling as well, spots the same monster that was chasing him out in the woods before out of a window.
And Fred says, there's no such thing as monsters. Yep. And 2 seconds later, guess who gets captured?
Yeah. He gets scared and bumps into a lot of people and then hides under a table. And Fred calls him out that there's no such thing as monsters and he shouldn't embarrass the gang the way he is. He gets up on a table and starts giving a speech about how there being no such thing. And then right as he gets interrupted by a monster jumping through a window. A monster jumps through a window, catches him, breathes his breath on him, and he passes out. And before he passes out, the only thing he's thinking about is save Daphne.
They must be like in love or something.
Everyone panics as more monsters crash the party. Velma's crawling on the floor looking for her glasses when a monster hands her glasses.
And she says, thank you very much. Have bad breath. And then immediately gets sprayed.
Yeah, she starts laughing at the monster and tries to pull off what she thinks is a mask and stretches the monster's face. And then she realizes it's not a person in a mask. And then she gets knocked out by its breath and captured. Daphne runs into Montevarius and tries to protect him, but a hand comes out of the floor and captures him. Daphne, Shaggy, and Mary Jane escape by running into the woods. Scooby tries to sneak out using a suitcase and gets caught right before he can get out and makes a run for it.
And bump into Mary Jane, Daphne, and Scraggy and just straight and run them in the window and jump out.
There's a 10-minute chase sequence. After a bunch of goofy antics between all 4 of them, they crash out of a window from the 4th floor. They bounce off the banisters while the monsters crash through it.
And they
bounce off the awning.
And they crash their heads like front forward and just join the rest of the monsters.
What?
They crash forward.
The monsters crash forward?
Yes.
No, they go through it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
The gang are after they fall through the awning. The gang is spying on the monsters that appear to be dragging people off to a cave.
In
Daphne
a game called, Get the Ball Head in the Pot.
What?
I still remember this. They're hiding in a game pots. Like, they have to
Oh,
get
they're
a
hiding in a
ball.
bunch of pots, yes.
And it's a game in the amusement pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. Daphne comes up with a plan to follow them. They watch them enter some cave, seals itself as soon as they enter. Mary Jane calls the Coast Guard, who says they'll send out a unit to the pier if they can meet them there.
And the Coast Guard are evil.
Yeah, they start evil laughing.
I'm assuming that the Coast Guard people are possessed.
I never get this part of the movie. They
This
never
part-
explain it.
Well, this part isn't very clear because later in the movie, the Coast Guard come again. Now, I'm assuming that they contacted someone else, not the local Coast Guard, and that's how they get that out. But, I mean, that's for later in the movie.
It's very hard. You have to, watch it, so many times to kind of understand that one part.
Well, there are a lot of parts aren't meant to be understood because it's a movie. They don't expect you to look this deep into it.
And not do a podcast about it.
So the gang go back to the pier and essentially sleep on the beach. When they wake up and look back at the hotel, all of the broken glass and destruction from the night before has all been repaired.
I think they want to cover up the fact that the island got attacked by the creatures.
Yep. A volleyball rolls over to the gang and we get another blast from the past. The band Sugar Ray is playing on a platform close by, while some people are playing volleyball and hanging out by the pool.
Beach volleyball.
Yeah. The gang is baffled by everyone acting like nothing happened last night. Frosted tips were a thing. Everyone in this scene, all the dudes in this scene, including the lead singer from Sugar Ray, all have frosted tips.
It
I
was
think-
an era, so.
Yeah, it
I think
was.
most of the people got captured by the monsters, and most of the ones that got free probably left the island, I'm guessing, or they just caught everyone.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up later, but what happens to the people that got off the island?
Maybe they just exist as monsters now.
Like, are those monsters just living their best lives out there?
You know, it would explain some things.
Yeah, but
yeah,
everyone...
well, but I'm curious, are they, plotting some kind of takeover?
Maybe,
What are they doing out there? They're just out there somewhere. There should be, there should be a live-action third movie. They bring everybody back to track down the monsters that got away.
only 2 of them come back. All the other ones just get mentioned way later. I'm not going to spoil it again.
Yeah. Shaggy and Scooby find Fred and everyone around them. Their eyes start glowing and green mist comes out of their mouths as they roar at Shaggy and Scooby. So they bolt and get cornered in some kind of barn.
And apparently there's super fancy motorcycles in there.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Daphne bumps into Zarko, who catches her and takes the Damon Ritus. Shaggy and Scooby discover some four-wheelers in the barn and bust out. They run into Mary Jane and bring her along. As they're riding, Mary Jane hits her head on a branch.
And Scooby noticed something sus about her.
Yes, her face shifts and Scooby can see her eyes that have turned another color. She fixes her face and then smiles.
And Scooby just never trusts Mary Jane throughout that part of the movie.
Yep. Once they get to a safe area and get off their four-wheelers, Scooby tries to tell Shaggy that she's a monster, and he doesn't believe her. Because of this, they end up having an argument and start fighting, until Scooby falls into a trap.
And Shaggy just straight on dives in the hole head first, not knowing anything that's in there.
Yep. Mary Jane tries to stop him, but he goes in head first anyway.
He didn't know there were sand down there.
Yeah, never dive head first into a place that you can't see the bottom of.
That's how you break your neck.
Yeah.
Or head.
Yeah, or your head.
And that's worse.
Luckily, Shaggy lands into some sand inside of a cave. And he gives the iconic line, "Scooby-Doo, where are you?"
That everyone almost knows, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? I don't really know the rest of the song.
Shaggy discovers a well of souls, or ectoplasma, as Velma calls it.
And that he releases all his friends. He could have just done something to shift the movie way longer, just tipping the whole bucket. Instead, he just releases his friends.
Yep. Velma's soul calls out to Shaggy, and he reaches in and pulls it out. She tells him to release her soul so she can return to her body. I should have mentioned this earlier, but there's a bunch of outfit changes that really go unexplained.
Velma does it once, and Daphne just does it every 10 minutes.
Yeah, Daphne has gone through at least 4 or 5 outfits since they've gotten to the islands.
Like,
Well, that's why she brought all,
7 suitcases.
30 cases of
Well,
luggage.
who knows how many she checked, let alone how many she tried to carry on.
Yes.
like, she just had to bring, every single purple fit she owns.
Yep. Velma's soul returns to its body, and the monster in her body pops out, and the sunlight causes it to explode.
Like, it gets so many little pimples, I feel like, and then it just becomes full-on bright and then explodes.
Yep. Shaggy then frees Fred and Daphne's soul. Fred and Daphne end up in the wrong bodies because Fred can't get to his, so he goes into Daphne's body.
Which is very unsmart. I feel like he wouldn't be able to get in the wall.
Yep, and I actually commented here that Shaggy could have ended the movie now if he had just released all the souls. And the only thing I can think of that would make Shaggy only release his friends and not everyone else is if they release everyone else, they'll never actually be able to discover who was causing everything to happen.
Well, I think
Mystery Inc. always wants to discover.
I think it's important to note here that at this point, he doesn't really know what's happening when he releases his, little ghost friends.
That's true.
Because he hasn't seen them find their bodies yet and kill the monsters inadvertently. So Shaggy doesn't really know that piece. So that might be why he doesn't release everybody. Also, I don't know that Shaggy's that smart.
No.
He's one of the, jokesters of the game.
He is one of the jokesters.
And this is where I made the comment about I'm curious what happens to the other monsters that actually have gotten off the island. Like, if they release the soul of someone who's in the well, who's already gotten off the island, are they able to find their body, or do they're just dead?
Maybe that's how you end up with haunted pants.
Oh, possibly.
Hashtag Fresno Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I don't think they will turn into the Nightcrawler just because I watched the creature features.
Yep.
And when are you going to do another?
I don't know. Whenever we feel like it.
Anyways, after freeing the gang, Shaggy spots the Damon Ritus and snags it. Velma sees the monster in Daphne's body and tackles it in a room when a soul comes in and enters Daphne's body. The monster comes out and Velma torches it by opening a window.
I have one little comment. How did the monster get into Daphne's body? She wasn't attacked by one.
No, she got captured.
Daphne?
Yes, everyone gets captured.
Except for Shaggy, I think.
Yeah, so Daphne got captured by Zarko, remember? And he takes the
yeah.
Damon Ritus. Yeah, I'm assuming they use the Damon Ritus to suck her soul out and put her body in, or put her in the well as just like everybody else.
Okay. That's the one part I don't process, but I can remember a lot of other stuff. I just don't process how Daphne just gets captured.
Yeah, when she was out looking for clues when they left the pier. Yeah, I'm assuming that's when her and Mary Jane they probably got captured off camera. Well, Daphne gets captured on camera. Mary Jane, we're assuming, gets captured off camera.
They wanted to keep it a little more of a surprise for Mary Jane.
Yep.
And Shaggy should have looked for Mary Jane, just in case.
After Velma explains everything, she finds out Fred entered Daphne's body. Daphne, in turn, entered Fred's body. After the gang all get back together, Shaggy puts the Damon Ritus in the center of the group, and everyone's soul does a little hot swap.
And it goes on for, I think, 5 minutes until they get in the right body.
Yep, everyone gets put in the wrong body multiple times. Then they hear a giant explosion by the beach. Turns out, it was the voodoo guy. They head to the beach, and he said he's trying to cast a spell to protect himself from the dark apocalypse ritual. Velma thinks that what the text on the Damon Ritus describes is that they use the Well of Souls as an energy source. The leader needs to absorb a single pure soul to complete the ritual. The voodoo guy says if they complete the ritual, the creatures will rule the earth for 10,000 years.
Dun, dun, dun.
Fred is confused because he's like, well, they don't have a pure human soul. And Velma comments, it doesn't have to be a human soul.
How are you a pure soul anyways?
It just means you're innocent.
Oh.
Dogs are pretty much the epitome of that. So it would make sense that they would use a dog's soul.
Yeah. The gang realizes that the one pure soul is probably Scooby. We see Scooby being released from a trap. Ingo takes Scooby to Montevarius. Montevarius acts very creepy here and accuses Shaggy of not being a good friend to Scooby.
And they have so many pictures of it. If Scooby was a slightly smarter, he would think that was a little weird.
Indeed. And how he is a better friend than Shaggy ever would be. So he asks Scooby to be a sacrifice. And Scooby agrees, because he clearly doesn't know what a sacrifice is.
And he says he's a rackavice.
Back on the beach, Shaggy gives a little pep talk to the gang, and they agree to save Scooby. There's a long setup montage here for their plan. So their original plan was to knock over the Well of Souls as soon as their ritual's about to start. But during the setup, Shaggy accidentally hooks himself instead of the Well of Souls, and they end up having to ad-lib their plan because Shaggy accidentally takes out one of the pallbearers who's carrying Scooby. And
did the movie so long ago, but instead he just keeps messing up.
Yeah, and because there's a crowd of people coming in, Velma and Fred try to blend in with the monsters in human skin by dancing with them.
Badly.
Very badly. Shaggy joins the group carrying Scooby, and he apologizes about how he's been acting, and he tries to convince Scooby to run because being a sacrifice isn't a good thing.
Rock of ice.
Yeah. Fred and Velma get discovered and cornered, and Mondavarius starts a monologue about the start of the end of the world and thanking them for returning the Damon Rightus. He then calls in for the sacrifice, so they bring in Scooby, and Shaggy finally convinces him to run when Scooby gets stabbed and his soul gets plucked out. The same machine starts sucking all the souls out of the well, and Mondavarius uses the Damon Rightus to suck all the souls into himself. And just before he's able to absorb Scooby, Shaggy jumps onto the machine and knocks Mondavarius off the platform. Scooby's soul runs around causing chaos and eventually goes back into his body. Velma and Fred break away during the chaos, and they head to Mondavarius and notice that it looks like he's wearing a mask. When Fred takes off the mask, it ends up being a robot. The chest area is revealed to be Scrappy-Doo, who has the Damon Rightus implanted into his chest. He begins to transform as he monologues about his plan being complete and how the only thing he needs is Scooby-Doo's soul to complete his transformation.
While he's transforming, his head's kind of tiny until the end.
Yeah, he turns into a giant. It's funny because on Amazon Prime, it describes it as Scrappy Rex. I mean, it's accurate. He kind of looks like a dog dinosaur thing.
But he at least has big size arms.
Yep.
He's not have little bunny ear arms.
And while this is all going on top of the facility,
Daphne's just fighting a muscle man.
Yeah. Daphne was trying to open the roof to bring in the sunlight, and Zarkos and Daphne just throw down a fight that defies gravity. They're doing some crazy stuff here.
She is called a black belt at the very beginning, so yeah.
Buffy and the Luchador are fighting it out. Fred and Velma take out all of the henchmen, keeping them from getting to the Crane of Souls.
I can't believe you made a Buffy reference.
He's a butt man. Really? He has muscles.
No, honey. Buffy is a
the
character that the actress plays.
The actress that's playing Daphne, I think Sarah Michelle
Gellar,
plays Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the TV series. Yeah. Fred and Velma take out all of the henchmen that are keeping them from getting to the Crane of Souls. Shaggy and Scooby are running away from Scrappy, but eventually get cornered by Mary Jane, who throws Scooby over to Scrappy. And just as they're about to take his soul again, Daphne is able to take out Zarko and launches him through the sunroof and into the Well of Souls that frees all the souls. And Daphne uses some kind of disco ball to spread the light to destroy all the newly released monsters.
It's the ball that was in the bar area.
Zarko launches through the sunroof and into the Well of Souls that frees all of the souls. Daphne using the disco ball to spread the light to destroy the newly released creatures. Shaggy manages to use the Crane of Souls to pluck the Damon Rightus out of Scrappy's chest, which releases all the souls he's absorbed. The gang meets back up while Shaggy hears banging and frees the real Montevarius who's been trapped underground.
He has a very big and long beard, and I don't know how he survives under there without food.
I'm also curious about that. Hopefully he just had food down there.
I'm kind of assuming that a possessed human was bringing him snacks.
Right? Montevarius comes out and explains that he did an interview for one of his new rides, and before he knew it, Scrappy was running around in a mechanical version of him.
Which looks way better than him in the trap place.
You'd look rough too if you'd been trapped underground for who knows how long.
Yeah, right? They said the island's been there for 2 years. Could have been 2 years. Everyone else in the gang meets up with their quote-unquote love interest. So Shaggy runs into Mary Jane. Velma runs into that dude who was talking her up at the bar.
And Fred and Daphne.
Mystery Inc. saved the day again. When the news crew... Oh, sorry. In this scene, the news crew, the Coast Guard, and everyone is piling up on the beach. And they ask Fred, how did they do it again? And instead of taking the credit like he normally does, he gives the floor to Velma, who announces that it was Scrappy-Doo who was corrupted by the Damon Rightus that caused the whole incident. And we see Scrappy, Zargo, and Ningo all being hauled away. The news asks about a case in London, and Fred says that Mystery Inc. are on the case.
And here's one side note, at the very end, where they're at a bar, and Shaggy eats a very hot, spicy red pepper, and then he says, "Can you do that?" He eats the whole jar. Scooby eats the whole jar of peppers, goes on fire, eats some ketchup. He eats like a whole leg of water. I don't know how a dog does that. And then he eats ketchup and cools himself down for some reason.
Yes, Shaggy and Scooby only came to the island because they wanted that all-you-can-eat buffet, and they finally get it right at the end of the movie.
And it's kind of disturbing. They did it again, and then they breathe fire out of the nose.
Yes, that was it. That was the whole movie.
What did you think of the movie, PJ?
I think it's pretty good. Just some little disturbing parts in the middle.
Were the monsters the disturbing parts? Were they scary?
No, the body switches.
Yeah, I think, like, when you could see the monsters in the bodies, that part was creepy. Like, when Mary Jane's face is all distorted.
Right, and then, like, she, like,
So you
snaps
see
it
her
back
eye?
like
Yeah.
a rubber band.
That was creepy.
I know, like, that's some, like, disturbing reference, but everything else is good. And I like the end where they finally get the buffet of spicy stuff.
If I treat this movie like it has absolutely nothing to do with the original Scooby-Doo, it's a good movie. But I'm biased because I grew up watching Scooby-Doo.
I know, it's kind of, like, very off the series.
Well, Scooby-Doo was your auntie's favorite TV show growing up, so I watched it a lot.
Logan or...
No, Logan. Auntie Logan is my sister. Daddy's sister's Auntie India.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Well, if I'm talking about a TV show I watched growing up, I'm probably talking about my sister.
All right, Sam, you liked the movie?
Yeah, I love Scooby-Doo. I do think I like this movie better than the second movie, but I haven't watched the second movie in a while, so I might be misremembering.
I've seen it recently, and it's very action-packed on the race to Witch Mountain.
Weird comparison, but okay.
I'll take it. I like this movie.
Race to Witch Mountain is a old TV show Nana had watched when she was
Old
little.
movie, but yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, I used to own it.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I like Scooby-Doo. I liked the live action. I think it's funny that Pretty Prince Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar are in it.
Yeah, I think it's funny they're married.
Who's Pretty Prince Jr.?
The guy who plays Fred.
Yeah, he's normally a brunette, though.
That's his real name.
Pretty Prince?
Freddie Prince Jr. And
like his name is actually Fred, and he plays a Fred.
Fred, yeah, which is I find funny.
Yeah, I always thought that was hilarious. I didn't know Fred's full name, so I thought the character's name was Freddie Prinze Jr. I did not realize that it was the actor.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, I was 12 when this movie came out.
Yeah.
So for years, I thought Freddie's full name was Freddie Prinze Jr.
And that's it. We hope you guys like what you heard and that you'll come back next week.
Bye.